There comes a moment in life when you realize that the more you explain yourself, the less powerful you feel. You explain why you made a decision. You explain why you said no. You explain why you walked away. You explain why you need rest, why you changed your plans, why you no longer tolerate certain behavior, and why you are choosing a different direction. Yet no matter how carefully you choose your words, some people still misunderstand you. Some question your intentions. Others judge your choices. And a few will twist your explanation into something you never meant. The Stoics understood this problem thousands of years ago. They knew that peace does not come from convincing everyone that you are right. Peace comes from knowing who you are, acting according to your principles, and accepting that other people's opinions are outside your control. You do not need permission to protect your peace. You do not need approval to choose a better life. You do not need to defend every boundary, justify every decision, or prove your worth to people who have already decided not to understand you. Today, we will explore 10 powerful Stoic lessons that can help you stop explaining yourself, reclaim your confidence, and live with quiet strength. These lessons are not about becoming cold, arrogant, or disrespectful. They are about learning when communication is useful and when silence is wiser. They are about protecting your energy, trusting your judgment, and refusing to hand your personal power to the opinions of others. The first lesson is to understand what is within your control. The foundation of Stoic philosophy is the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your choices, your actions, your attitude, your effort, and the principles you follow. You cannot fully control how people interpret you, what they say about you, whether they approve of you, or what story they create in their minds. Most unnecessary explanations begin when we try to control something that cannot be controlled. We believe that if we use the right words, provide enough details, or defend ourselves strongly enough, everyone will finally understand us. But understanding cannot be forced. Approval cannot be demanded. Respect cannot be created through endless justification. You may explain your decision clearly, and someone may still disagree. You may speak honestly, and someone may still doubt you. You may show kindness, and someone may still call you selfish. This does not always mean that you communicated badly. Sometimes it simply means that the other person sees life through a different set of experiences, fears, expectations, and beliefs. The Stoic response is not to become angry or desperate. It is to ask yourself a simple question. Did I act with honesty, courage, wisdom, and self-respect? If the answer is yes, then you have done your part. Imagine that you decide to leave a job that is damaging your health. Some people may tell you that you are being irresponsible. Others may say that you should be grateful. You can explain your reasons once to the people who genuinely need to know, but after that, continuing to defend your decision will not create peace. It will only drain your energy. Your responsibility is to make the wisest decision you can with the information available to you. Other people's reactions belong to them. Whenever you feel the urge to explain yourself repeatedly, pause and ask yourself whether you are trying to communicate or trying to control someone's opinion of you. Communication is healthy. Trying to control every opinion is exhausting. The second lesson is to stop seeking permission to live your own life. Many people do not explain themselves because an explanation is necessary. They explain because they are secretly asking for permission. They want someone to say that their decision is acceptable, that they are allowed to do it, and that they are still a good person. This habit often begins early in life. We learn that approval brings safety, and disapproval brings discomfort. As adults, we may continue searching for validation from parents, friends, partners, co-workers, or even strangers on the internet. But living according to constant approval is a form of invisible captivity. You may appear free, yet your choices are controlled by the fear of disappointing others. Stoicism teaches personal responsibility. You are responsible for your character and your decisions. This means you must listen to advice, examine your motives, consider the consequences, and then choose. Once you have made a thoughtful decision, you cannot spend your life asking everyone else to approve it. Perhaps you want to remain single for a while. Perhaps you want to change careers. Perhaps you want to move to another city, end an unhealthy friendship, start a business, study something new, or live more simply. People may question you because your choice does not match the life they imagined for you. You can respect their concerns without surrendering your direction. A calm response may be enough. You can simply say that you have thought carefully about it and believe it is the right decision for you. This response is not aggressive. It does not insult anyone. It does not invite an argument. It communicates confidence without demanding agreement. The more you trust yourself, the less you need permission from others. This does not mean believing that you can never be wrong. A wise person remains open to correction. But there is a difference between being open to wisdom and being dependent on approval. Listen to people who are honest, experienced, and sincerely concerned for your well-being. Do not build your life around the expectations of people who will not live with the consequences of your choices. The third lesson is to let your actions explain your character. Words are easy to produce. Explanations can be carefully designed. Promises can sound impressive. But over time, actions reveal more than speeches ever could. When someone doubts your discipline, you may feel tempted to describe all your plans. When someone questions your loyalty, you may want to list everything you have done for them. When someone underestimates your ability, you may feel a strong need to prove them wrong immediately. The Stoic Path is often quieter. Instead of arguing about who you are, live in a way that makes your character visible. If you want to be known as reliable, keep your promises. If you want to be respected as disciplined, show up consistently. If you want others to see you as calm, practice calmness under pressure. If you want to be recognized as honest, tell the truth, even when lying would be easier. Your life is the strongest explanation of your values. There will always be moments when speaking is necessary. False accusations may need to be corrected. Important relationships require honest communication. Professional situations may demand clarification. Stoicism does not teach passive silence in every circumstance. However, after you have spoken clearly, allow your behavior to support your words. Do not keep repeating yourself to people who are committed to doubting you. Imagine that someone calls you lazy while you are quietly working toward a goal. You could waste hours defending your effort, or you could continue working. In time, the results will speak. Someone may say that you have changed. Perhaps you have changed. Maybe you no longer tolerate disrespect. Maybe you no longer chase people who give you little in return. Maybe you are becoming more disciplined, more private, and more selective. You do not need a long explanation for healthy growth. A tree does not apologize for growing toward the light. It simply grows. The fourth lesson is to accept that misunderstanding is part of life. One of the deepest fears behind over-explaining is the fear of being misunderstood. We want people to see our intentions accurately. We want them to know that we were not trying to hurt anyone. We want them to understand the full story. This desire is human, but complete understanding between people is rare. Every person views your actions through their own past experiences. Someone who has been betrayed may see danger where none exists. Someone who fears abandonment may see your need for space as rejection. Someone who is insecure may interpret your confidence as arrogance. You cannot enter another person's mind and rearrange their interpretation of you. You can be clear, you can be respectful, you can correct serious misunderstandings. But at some point, you must accept that some people will hold an incomplete or inaccurate image of you. That acceptance creates freedom. Think about how many hours people lose imagining conversations in which they finally prove their innocence, intelligence, or value. They replay arguments. They create perfect responses. They wish they could return to the past and explain themselves better. But life is happening now. The Stoics practiced accepting reality as it is, not as they wished it to be. Reality includes the fact that you will sometimes be misunderstood. Even the kindest person will be criticized. Even the wisest person will be doubted. Even the most honest person will occasionally be accused of dishonesty. Your peace cannot depend on universal understanding. Ask yourself whether you would rather be true to your principles and misunderstood, or betray your principles just to be accepted. When you choose integrity, misunderstanding becomes less frightening. You know that another person's story about you does not automatically become the truth about you. The fifth lesson is to use silence as strength, not punishment. Silence can be powerful, but only when it comes from self-control rather than manipulation. There is a difference between remaining silent because an argument is pointless and ignoring someone to punish them. Stoic silence is calm. It is intentional. It is not filled with hatred or hidden revenge. Sometimes people provoke you because they want an emotional reaction. They make disrespectful comments, ask invasive questions, or challenge choices that do not concern them. When you immediately begin defending yourself, you give them control of your emotional state. Silence communicates that not every comment deserves your energy. A person may ask why you are still single. You do not owe them your personal history. Someone may ask how much money you make. You are not required to answer. Another person may criticize your appearance, your lifestyle, or your private decisions. You can choose not to participate in that conversation. You may respond with a short sentence. You can say that it is personal, that you are comfortable with your decision, or that you do not want to discuss it. You may also simply change the subject. The power is not in the specific words. The power is in your calm refusal to be pulled into unnecessary justification. Silence also creates space for wisdom. When you stop reacting immediately, you give yourself time to observe. You begin to notice who respects your boundaries and who becomes angry when they can no longer control you. You see which conversations are genuine and which are designed to drain you. Not every challenge requires an answer. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every opinion deserves a place in your mind. Silence is not weakness when you are capable of speaking, but wise enough to know that speaking will change nothing. The sixth lesson is to set boundaries without writing an essay. Many people struggle with boundaries because they believe every boundary requires a detailed explanation. They say no, then immediately feel guilty. To reduce that guilt, they add reasons, excuses, and apologies. They may say that they are sorry, that they cannot come because they have been tired lately, that work has been difficult, that they have several responsibilities, and that they hope the other person is not upset. A simple no turns into a request for forgiveness. There is nothing wrong with explaining when context is useful. But a boundary does not become valid only after another person approves your reason. You are allowed to say that you will not be available. You are allowed to say that something does not work for you. You are allowed to tell someone not to speak to you disrespectfully. You are allowed to say that you need time to think. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, but they will learn to respect them. Controlling people often demand explanations, because explanations give them material to debate. For example, you say that you cannot attend. They ask why. You say you are tired. They reply that you can rest tomorrow. You say you have work. They respond that the event will only take an hour. Every reason becomes a problem they try to solve. The real message was not that you needed them to solve your schedule. The real message was that you were not available. The Stoic approach is clear and respectful. Communicate the boundary, avoid unnecessary hostility, and remain consistent. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. You may worry that people will call you selfish, but self-respect often feels like selfishness when you have spent years abandoning yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. Your boundaries teach people how to interact with you. If you repeatedly explain, apologize, and surrender, you teach them that your no can be changed through pressure. Say what is necessary, then let the boundary stand. The seventh lesson is not to argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Some disagreements are honest. Two people may have different information, values, or perspectives. In these situations, calm conversation can create understanding. Other disagreements are not honest. Some people are not searching for truth. They are searching for victory. They listen only to find something they can attack. They ignore your main point, twist your words, and move the argument in a new direction whenever you answer. You cannot have a productive conversation with someone whose goal is to defeat you rather than understand you. The Stoics valued reason, but reason works only when both people are willing to use it. When you recognize that a conversation is becoming circular, give yourself permission to leave it. You might say that you have explained your position and do not believe repeating it will help. You might say that you see things differently and are not going to continue arguing. Walking away is not the same as losing. Sometimes the person who ends the argument is the only person still in control of themselves. Think of your attention as a limited resource. Every pointless argument consumes mental energy that could be used for your goals, your health, your family, or your inner growth. Ask yourself whether the conversation is producing clarity or only producing exhaustion. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to correct every false assumption. You do not need the last word. The need to have the last word often comes from the ego. The ego says that you cannot rest until the other person admits you are right. Wisdom says that their admission is not required for you to move forward. The eighth lesson is to release the need to protect your image. Much of over-explaining comes from image management. We want to control how everyone sees us. We want to appear intelligent, kind, successful, loyal, strong, and reasonable at all times. But the more tightly you try to control your image, the more anxious you become. Every criticism feels like a threat. Every rumor feels like an emergency. Every negative opinion creates the desire to defend yourself. The Stoics warned against building your identity on reputation. Reputation exists in the minds of other people, which means it is unstable. One person may praise you, while another criticizes you for the same action. Suppose you work long hours. One person calls you ambitious, another calls you obsessed. Suppose you rest and protect your health. One person calls you balanced, another calls you lazy. Suppose you speak confidently. One person calls you a leader, another calls you arrogant. Which opinion will you live by? You cannot build a stable identity using constantly changing judgments. Instead, focus on character. Reputation is what people think you are. Character is what you repeatedly choose when no one is watching. Protecting your character is wise. Protecting a perfect image is impossible. This does not mean ignoring useful feedback. Criticism can reveal weaknesses. A mature person listens without immediately becoming defensive. Ask whether the criticism is true, partly true, or completely false. If it is true, improve. If it is partly true, learn what you can. If it is false, let it pass. You do not need to create a public campaign every time someone forms a wrong opinion of you. A clean conscience is often more valuable than a perfect reputation. The ninth lesson is to build confidence through self-discipline. People often think confidence comes from positive thinking or motivational words. Stoicism offers a stronger foundation. Real confidence grows when you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. Every time you act according to your values despite discomfort, your confidence becomes more stable. Every time you remain calm under pressure, you learn that your emotions do not have to control you. A person who trusts themselves does not need to explain every choice because they have evidence. They know they have thought carefully. They know they can handle consequences. They know they can admit mistakes and adjust when necessary. A person who does not trust themselves often searches for reassurance. They explain their decision to 5 different people, hoping someone will remove the uncertainty. But no amount of external reassurance can replace inner trust. Start building that trust through small acts of discipline. Wake up when you say you will. Complete the task you have been avoiding. Control your spending. Take care of your body. Keep private matters private. Pause before reacting in anger. Leave situations that repeatedly violate your values. Confidence is not the belief that you will always succeed. It is the belief that whatever happens, you will respond with courage and responsibility. When you develop this kind of confidence, you become less interested in proving yourself. You no longer need everyone to recognize your strength because you experience that strength through your actions. Your voice becomes calmer. Your answers become shorter. Your decisions become clearer. You stop announcing every plan and begin quietly building the life you want. The 10th lesson is to choose inner peace over being understood by everyone. At some point, you must decide what matters more, inner peace or universal approval. You cannot have both. To be approved by everyone, you would have to constantly change yourself. You would need to agree with contradictory expectations. You would need to become more ambitious for one person and less ambitious for another, more social for one person and more private for someone else, more forgiving to please one group and more aggressive to satisfy another. Trying to satisfy everyone divides you against yourself. Inner peace begins when your life becomes aligned with your deepest values. Your actions, words, and beliefs begin moving in the same direction. You stop performing different versions of yourself for different audiences. This alignment may disappoint some people. Those who benefited from your lack of boundaries may call you difficult. Those who were comfortable with your silence may dislike your honesty. Those who expected unlimited access to your time may accuse you of changing. Let them notice the change. Growth often creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. The Stoic does not seek conflict, but neither does the Stoic sacrifice integrity to avoid it. You can remain kind without being easily controlled. You can listen without obeying. You can apologize when you are wrong without apologizing for having needs. You can explain when explanation is useful without turning your life into a courtroom. Before explaining yourself, ask 3 questions. Is this person entitled to an explanation? Will this explanation create genuine clarity? Am I speaking from wisdom or from fear of being judged? These questions can save you from countless exhausting conversations. Your family may deserve an explanation about a decision that directly affects them. A colleague may need clarification about a shared responsibility. A close friend may deserve honesty if your actions caused confusion or pain. But a stranger, a disrespectful acquaintance, or someone who repeatedly ignores your words may not deserve access to your private reasoning. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Stopping unnecessary explanations does not mean becoming emotionally closed. It means becoming intentional. You communicate because communication serves truth, responsibility, or connection. You do not communicate simply to beg for approval. Remember that your life is not a public trial. You are not standing before a jury every day. You do not have to present evidence for every personal decision. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow relationships. You are allowed to protect your time. You are allowed to become unavailable to situations that destroy your peace. You are allowed to refuse disrespect. You are allowed to take a different path. You are allowed to live without constantly translating your soul for people who have no intention of understanding it. The next time someone questions your decision, do not react immediately. Take a breath. Ask whether a response is necessary. If it is, speak clearly and calmly. Say enough to communicate the truth, but not so much that you abandon your dignity. Then return to your life. Let consistency explain what words cannot. Let discipline reveal your seriousness. Let peace become your answer to provocation. Let your character speak in places where arguments would only create more noise. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the thoughts and judgments of others do not control the quality of our character. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we focus on our own choices rather than external approval. Seneca warned that life becomes shorter when we waste it on distractions and meaningless conflict. Their message remains powerful today. Your energy is limited. Your time is limited. Your attention is limited. Do not spend these treasures trying to convince everyone to see you correctly. Some people will understand you. Be grateful for them. Some people will misunderstand you. Be patient with them. Some people will deliberately misrepresent you. Create distance from them. But in every situation, remain responsible for yourself. Do not allow another person's confusion to become your identity. Do not allow their criticism to become your inner voice. Do not allow their demands to separate you from your values. Stand quietly in what you know to be right. Continue learning. Correct yourself when necessary. Apologize sincerely when you cause harm. But never confuse humility with endless self-defense. You can be humble and still have boundaries. You can be kind and still say no. You can be open-minded and still trust your judgment. You can care about people without allowing their opinions to control your life. This is the quiet power of Stoicism. It does not ask you to dominate others. It teaches you to govern yourself. It does not promise that everyone will approve of you. It teaches you that approval is not required for a meaningful life. When you stop explaining every decision, you create space. Space to think, space to work, space to heal, space to discover what you genuinely believe without the constant noise of other people's expectations. In that space, your confidence begins to return. You realize that silence is not emptiness, it is self-command. You realize that a boundary is not cruelty, it is clarity. You realize that disagreement is not always danger. Sometimes it is simply difference. You realize that being misunderstood does not make you wrong. Most importantly, you realize that your power was never taken from you completely. You were giving it away each time you treated another person's approval as the final judgment of your worth. Now you can take it back. Not through anger, not through revenge, not through becoming distant from everyone. You reclaim your power by choosing your response, by speaking only when your words have purpose, by allowing others to have their opinions without allowing those opinions to direct your life, and by returning your attention to what you can control, your character, your effort, your discipline, and your next action. Today, practice one small act of quiet strength. Say no, without creating a long excuse. Allow a misunderstanding to exist, without chasing the person responsible. Keep a plan private, until your actions produce results. End an argument that is going nowhere. Make a decision based on your values rather than your fear of judgment. Then notice what happens inside you. At first, you may feel uncomfortable. Your mind may tell you to send another message, provide another reason, or explain one more detail. Do not immediately obey that impulse. Sit with the discomfort. Let it pass. Every time you resist the need to over-explain, you strengthen your emotional discipline. Eventually, you will no longer feel guilty for protecting your peace. You will understand that mature communication does not require self-betrayal. You will become more selective about where you place your words, and more careful about who receives access to your inner world. Your life will become quieter, but your presence will become stronger. You will no longer enter every room hoping to be accepted. You will enter knowing that your responsibility is to act with integrity. You will no longer chase people to correct every false impression. You will trust time and consistent behavior. You will no longer measure your worth by how many people agree with you. You will measure it by how faithfully you live according to your principles. That is real freedom. Stop explaining yourself to people who only want to argue. Stop defending boundaries that protect your well-being. Stop asking permission to become the person you know you can be. Speak when truth requires it. Listen when wisdom is offered. Apologize when you are wrong. But when you have acted thoughtfully and honorably, allow your decision to stand. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You need to understand yourself. You do not need to win every argument. You need to maintain control of your character. You do not need to prove your power through loud words. Your calmness, discipline, and consistency will reveal it. Walk forward with quiet confidence. Let people think what they choose to think. Their thoughts belong to them. Your life belongs to you. The moment you truly understand this, you stop living as a prisoner of explanation and begin living as the master of your own mind.